is starting. Are you seeing anything? No, not there.
Might be in the window.
I mean, it says it's streaming. Yeah, it is. Awesome. All right.
Yes, sir.
You know what we need to do, though, Mike? We got to start with this.
Okay, I'm seeing it
There it is.
Proud of that, aren't you?
All right. I am proud of that. I love that bumper. It's the best. Hey, welcome to episode 2 of Take a Look Live. I am Kyle Flaherty.
I'm Mike Hamilton.
Eventually, at some point, Mike, I'm going to learn how to have like our names right here, or right here maybe, or right here, and it would point down to you.
What about like the little dialogue bubbles?
Ooh, I could do that too. Oh, we should do one where like I'm just talking and then something just pops up into your head. You're like, is this guy kidding me? And we can hear people actually in our audience listening to the show. And
Yeah, which means there's like a 35-second delay.
Right, exactly. So we can say anything we
Right,
want, and then we can bleep it out, and we can, right. So imagine what we're going to accomplish at this point. Awesome.
Fortunately, we're not regulated by FCC.
Right. Just Google and YouTube at this point. So if you joined us last week, we talked a little bit about RSA, the target attack, etc. We're not going to focus on security every week. This is about analytics in general. And it could be, we've actually spent a lot of time, Mike and I, this week talking about social media marketing analytics. And hopefully that's something that we're going to show everybody out there in the coming weeks. But this week has been kind of a, man, I don't want to say bloodbath, and we'll talk about Heartbleed at some point because shame on us if we didn't. It's the first time I've gotten an email from both my mother and my father separately about something in the security realm, and so, you know, freaking out. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but the first thing I actually want to talk about was tax day. So we are a week away, right? What is today, the 11th? No, it's like 4 days away?
It's like the 12th.
4 days away. No,
11th?
15th is tax day.
Well,
Today's the 11th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we got our stuff together, obviously, here.
Well,
but
yeah, so my laptop shows the date up at the top. You just have the time.
well, I apologize for that. But the reason we want to talk about tax day isn't because we're some sort of IRS experts, but there's something that actually seemingly has been happening more and more around tax day. And so I'm going to actually click through a few articles for folks as we're talking about it, but it seems like phishing campaigns around tax day are just blowing up. What's kind of going on there, and what should people be kind of concerned about?
Is that a question?
It is a question, actually. I think it was posed as a question, pretty much.
Well, normally there's a tone of voice that
Yeah. I mean,
implies question.
to the point where DHS has put out kind of a national cybersecurity bulletin just about these things.
Right. And the IRS has their Dirty Dozen tax scams.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's
What
on IRS Gov.
Oh, all right, cool. Yep.
So, I mean, the big thing is ultimately the most valuable piece of, maybe not the most valuable, one of the most valuable pieces of information about you is your social security number, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's used for pretty much everything. It used to be, you know, I was in college about the time where they were on the sort of the last leg of using social security numbers as the grade posting system. And then that, you know, sort of in the middle of my second year, that sort of switched to last 4 digits, and then it switched to some unique identifier that they assign to you. But with tax day, that's sort of like the most important piece of information for your tax return outside of income and all the other stuff.
Right.
And with that, of course, there's all sorts of noise about you know, that you're getting like I get email from TurboTax constantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your user ID enclosed inside this email, and you know, if that email happened to hit my inbox at the right time, where I was sitting on the couch or whatever, I might be inclined to click it. Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and start my taxes.
Right.
And I'm just thinking how easy it would be for me to get some TurboTax email that I've received at some point in the past, and craft a new email that looks something like that, and inside the link to a page that looks exactly like TurboTax's homepage, and have them punch in their username and password, and then website down, check back later.
Right.
And you don't even think anything went wrong.
Now I got your credits.
And now I have your
Yep.
your user ID and your password.
Right.
I can actually go to real TurboTax. Now I don't even need at that point. I don't even need your social security number, because if you've even started your return, that's already in there.
Right.
It's just a matter of changing the address,
Mhm.
which, I mean, I'm a little rusty. It's been 12 months since I've done. Actually, it's only been 6 months since I did last year's taxes.
Right.
But I mean, I don't think it's that difficult to just change the address or change the bank account information in that tax return.
To get the refund.
And also, I didn't even have to do anything
Right.
other than I got your password.
Right.
You already had the year's stuff. And
Or
even-
you
and
start
if it's
manipulating the entire tax return for your own good. I mean,
Right.
and you get a bigger
Decrease
refund,
income.
it comes to you,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, and actually, Scott, who's in our audience right now, was talking about auditing. There's nothing scarier than getting that email about a potential audit.
Right.
And so if I got that email on the 13th, the 14th or whatever from TurboTax saying we did an analysis or something,
Right.
machine learning on your thing, and you came up with a 62% chance of being audited,
Right.
log in and we have 4 tips for you. You bet I'm going there and I'm going
Right.
to put my username and password
Well,
in.
and especially think about people. So last year, when I did, because I used TurboTax, and I went ahead and paid the extra whatever $50.
What's your username and password?
It is Kyle Flaherty.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. That's mine too.
That's just the one.
This
I,
is
that's
so,
just the
so
one I used.
strange. Wow.
But so I actually, so in that situation, it's actually potentially even more realistic in that I paid the $50 for like they have their little legal scam in audit protection.
Oh,
and
right.
it would be completely legitimate for them to send me an email talking about an audit
Yeah, because it's a service you paid for.
Because it's a service I paid for.
Right. Yep.
And of course, if you're using the right name of the service and
Yeah.
whatever audit defense or whatever it is they call it, I would be totally likely to, I paid for the service. Let me just click on
Right.
that link.
Yep.
And it's like, in these sort of these phishing scams, I don't even understand how a grandma who's sitting at home and gets an email like that doesn't click on those links. There's times that I get emails in my Gmail inbox that I'm like literally that close to clicking on the link, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
It's like, what about my wife who's
Right.
just like so trusting? She's
Right.
just gonna click on the link. My mom, just click on the link.
Or she has 5 minutes to check her email, and she's just going to whip through it,
Right.
and go on after that. So one of the other things I was thinking about too, and this isn't to pick on TurboTax for sure. I'm actually a user as well. There's plenty of these online
Absolutely.
brokers and things like that, and but I was thinking about. And so this whole thing, of course, is social engineering, right?
Right.
It's phishing, it's spear phishing. You've heard of all these things overall, and we're going to actually talk about social engineering in general and some of the things that you can look out for. But it doesn't just have to be an email. It could just as easily be a phone call. And so I was thinking last night, why wouldn't I go to, again, TurboTax's Facebook page and find all the people who liked TurboTax? There's probably, I don't know how many there are, but there's probably thousands.
Right.
Most likely those are users overall. Not that hard to go and get their phone numbers and figure that out and start calling, or find out where they work and start calling down, or just
Right.
call down through a corporation and just say, I'm calling from TurboTax as part of your audit
Right.
protection.
Right. Just calling to check in, remind you of the services available.
Right.
Or
Yep.
hey, we were notified because you filed with that. We flag your return so
Yep.
that so we get notified first. I mean, you could someone could easily do something like that.
Right. And that goes into, so let me, one of the things I wanted to pop up was an infographic actually that Mike, you had a lot to do with, as well as, a lot of the folks in our audience, big audience today, by the way. I just
Huge.
want to thank you guys.
I'm so
We changed the time up for everyone because I get to go to Las Vegas tonight to celebrate a good friend's 40th birthday. So that's why it's earlier.
If you take the one person in the audience and the 3 people streaming, we almost have 2 hands worth of
I don't believe you. I
viewers.
think this is going to be a big one. I think we're going to find that this time actually works out better. We'll see.
We'll see.
And you can, I should say too, as he's typing furiously, Scott is live tweeting all of this stuff, hashtag take a look live, or go to @21CT Inc., 21CT INC, to follow along there as well, or if you have questions or whatnot, just pose them there. But Scott actually himself had a post this week on how tax scams can help you kind of defend against social engineering and looking at some of the different things and attacks, et cetera, that we just kind of looked at. Actually, and boom, there's an embedded link to what we're talking about now.
Brilliant marketing.
But I actually wanted to talk about the infographic. This was created, it's been a couple months now, right, at this point?
This January, I think.
January?
When we
Yeah.
released it.
So, but it's going to be one of several, and we'll talk about that. But the thing I liked about this one overall is the fact that it talks about the phone call.
Right.
And so, I mean, go through it a little bit. We don't have to. I mean, it's there. It's on the website. You
Right.
can go and get it. And this is not. This has nothing really to do about our product or anything like
Right.
that. It's like print this out. Give it to your mom. Give it to everybody in the company. Like, pass this out. This is educational, and we hope eventually it's going to be entertaining. I think it is a little bit. We make fun of marketing people, so people enjoy that overall. But you got this guy, Marcus, getting a phone call from a bank.
Right.
That could be just as easily be the TurboTax or whatnot, and they're always going to pry on time.
Right.
There's going to be something going on. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a tragedy. I've heard actually in Washington State where they had the mudslides, that there's been some folks doing that kind of stuff of I'm calling from your insurance company, blah, blah, blah. And these people are freaking out because
They've
their
lost
house is
everything.
gone.
Right.
And the insurance might not cover it. Of course you're going to give them
Right.
everything because you want to get that refund. But kind of what's the goal here for this infographic, in your opinion?
Yeah, so this particular sort of storyline, I actually kind of picked up from a combination of things, but one that kind of stuck out of my mind is a few years ago, there was actually a SourceFire researcher who received a phone call, and I've received this almost the exact same phone call a few times.
Yeah.
And the phone call starts out something like, "Hey, Mr. Whatever your name is, we've received notification that your computer is severely infected with malware. Fortunately, we're here to help.
Yeah.
If you navigate to this website," and so basically, the SourceFire researcher fires up a virtual machine and starts to record the entire session. Now he doesn't actually have the audio of the call, but you can
Right.
actually see what he's going through, and then you can actually
Cool.
see. So he goes to this website, and they actually take control of his laptop.
Yeah.
Or of this virtual machine, and of course they don't notice the little VMware tools, that would have been a red flag that they're inside a virtual machine.
Sure. Right.
And they basically they immediately start shutting off legitimate services, so that really everything starts to look terrible, and so you're more inclined to navigate to their website and go to their price list,
Right.
download a PDF, and all of a sudden your laptop is now actually infected. And so that's kind of where that storyline came from, is an actual real life scenario. But I mean, ultimately, playing on people's emotions, you can get them to do pretty much anything
Right.
over the phone if you hit the right person at the right time. And it's not that difficult with all the information available on people out there.
Right. So, we are hitting about 2 minutes left overall, but one of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure that we talked about was Heartbleed. So this has been the topic of the week for sure. Give a 30-second, what is it and why should I care?
Basically, it's a vulnerability on SSL related traffic where there's some heartbeat messages.
So that is, for those who don't understand, that's when you feel like you're at your most secure.
Right.
You're, and to get pretty, simplified is when you're on a website it says HTTPS.
You get that little lock.
Right, you get a lock or
icon
whatever.
in
That should be on your
browser.
bank. That should be on Twitter, Facebook. A lot of those folks have that. So it's actually the frustration about this is when it should be when you feel the most secure.
Right. And so basically what happens is there's two different spots for this sort of heartbeat message, and the exploit basically, in a sort of a simplified form, is you can exploit the fact that it's in two different places and put more information into that message that ultimately writes data into memory of the target machine and allows an external party to inject a running process. Essentially, once you have access to memory, you can write programs into that memory that make it do other things,
Right.
like call out to some other website and download a file or whatever. And ultimately, they now, once they have access to running processes on your machine, you are in big trouble.
And the crazy thing here is that, so everyone, and I saw a lot of folks on my own Facebook feed and Twitter feed last night, and again, I'm getting emails from family members, etc., saying, oh, well, I changed my passwords. Okay, that's great. It's always good to change your passwords, but if you change your passwords and they haven't patched against this vuln yet,
The next time you
it
go
doesn't
back,
matter,
right?
You still got to change it. So there's actually some pretty good tools out there. If you use different kind of password tools and stuff, they have different stuff. There's free Chrome extensions. You can actually get it off of our Facebook feed or Twitter feed. I put that up last night where there's a little bleeding heart in the corner. If you go to a website that it's pinging it, if they haven't updated, it will tell you. Banks now are sending out emails saying we have updated. Now go back in. If you haven't heard from your bank, if you have send them a note.
And if you do hear from your bank, don't click on the link in the email. Go to your bank's website directly. Type in the URL. Go to bankofamerica.com. Go to wellsfargo.com. Do not click on the link in the email, just in case.
Great point. Yeah, and so that circles back around to all of it. Of people are going to start now taking advantage of this whole thing and making sure that this is so just sickening of the circles of this. Of now, this is going to become a social engineering attack, and a spear phishing attack.
And so one thing I want to make a specific point to talk about. I'm not sure necessarily what the takeaway is from it, or whether or not I'm actually being particularly insightful. But a lot of them being patched means grabbing the latest OpenSSL library, and basically everyone uses that package. I mean, I do a fair amount of development-y hack stuff on, and everything uses OpenSSL. And so this is vaguely familiar to the UPnP vulnerability that H.D. Moore and those guys wrote a lot about and got a lot of press over, which basically what happened in that case is some guy early on in the UPnP prototyping, wrote some code. It wasn't particularly well tested, but anyone who decided to go build UPnP stuff, it's like, oh, there's some existing code, I'll just use that. And so all of a sudden, some terrible proof of concept code proliferates as. No, I'm certainly not saying OpenSSL is. But it should be. It should open up people's eyes to how easy it is to, from a development perspective, go use existing libraries. And I'm certainly not advocating building all of your own everything. But it's just a matter of being aware of knowing what libraries you're using, knowing that you're using OpenSSL, so that every other application you're writing or every program or whatever that uses these libraries, you have to go track them and know when they get patched, when they get updated, you need to go. It's just something to kind of be aware of from a technical perspective.
Exactly, right. So from the developer to the user, we all have to be kind of vigilant in the next few weeks, certainly if not longer, around this one in particular. And it's something that keep watching. I mean, there's some great resources out there. Of course, I feel like we're a great resource, but there's, Sophos has some great stuff. Cisco's actually been really good about putting out a list of all their products that have this vulnerability in it, and some of them are home products, so you got to be careful too of, oh, well, that's the IT's going to help that. Well, this could be something at home that you got to be kind of concerned about. So this one's going to be interesting to watch, and for sure we'll be talking about how, at least internally and maybe externally on our blog, about how kind of network behavior analysis and stuff could show a lot of these types of things, just to make sure that you're safe kind of overall. So, all right, well, we've hit on the two main topics. We've hit our 15 minutes. I got to go catch a flight to Vegas. It's tough.
So sad.
It's a tough life. My team's really excited that I'm not going to be here this afternoon, I think.
Yeah, because that means we're not going to be here this afternoon.
Oh, I think that's not true. I know all of you way too well, actually, overall. And, it was funny, after we did this first thing, we have been compared to the two Muppets in the balcony.
Nice.
I guess this looks on the screen like that. Yeah.
That was the goal, right?
I think so, right. This is, we are kind of, we're caricatures of ourselves.
Well, as long as I'm not Miss Piggy or
I don't know. We'll have to ask the crowd at this point. So hashtag take a look live.
Like Miss Piggy.
Which Muppet is Mike? Which Muppet is Kyle? Awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much. We'll be back next week with episode 3. We got a 10-episode deal, so we will definitely be back.
We're working on that exclusive Netflix streaming.
It's going to be
deal.
exciting. We're going to be right after House of Cards. So excellent. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Well, it's still streaming and people can hear you.